What's going on, lighting and effects enthusiasts? Today we're going to be checking out the Dazzler FX. This is ColorKey's cold spark machine. I'm going to show you how to get it set up, trigger a show, daisy chain multiple units together for the horse race effect, and most importantly, how to maintain and properly care for your unit so it lasts you a long time. Let's get into it. So the first thing we need to do to get our machine up and running is we need to add some cold spark powder. This right here is a 200-gram bag of ColorKey branded cold spark powder. It'll get you approximately 15 minutes of continuous show time and can shoot all the way up to 15 feet. Now we highly recommend only using ColorKey branded powder in your ColorKey Dazzler FX, and that is for a very specific reason. Different companies granulize their powders at different consistencies, so a thicker granular or a finer granular will very easily clog the machine. So please check with your favorite retailer or look at our website to get the ColorKey Cold Spark powder for your machine. So let's look at how we effectively add the powder to the machine. Now this is a very important step. You'll notice on the top of the machine that there are two different holes. This one right here, the open one, is the output hole. Do not, I repeat, do not put your powder in this hole. It will ruin the machine. Instead, you need to fill the hopper, which is clearly labeled with this nice bag symbol, and you can easily tell because of the stopper on top of the hole. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that stopper, and we're gonna add some powder. Now how much powder you add is gonna depend on how long you plan on using your unit for. Since this is just a demo, I'm not gonna add that much powder. We'll get it in there and make sure to replace the cap. All right, now that our powder is added, let's go ahead and turn the machine on and get it heating up. On switch is right there, on. Now while it's heating up, let's go over what you're seeing on the screen and some of the LED indicators. You'll notice that our machine's now heating up. You can see the temperature there right now at 126 degrees and steadily climbing. Takes the unit about 3 to 5 minutes to heat all the way up. You'll also notice that the heating status LED is blinking, letting you know that the machine is heating up. The work LED is not lit yet because we're not to temperature. No faults, always a good thing. And DMX, we don't have DMX attached. However, later in the video, I will go over how to run these units on DMX. So let's give it a couple minutes to heat up here and we'll get started. All right, the work LED has gone green, which means we are now heated up and ready to run a spark show. Now there's two ways to trigger a spark show. The first one is gonna be with the included remote, and the second is via DMX. Okay, we're gonna trigger our first show using the included remote. There's lots of great features on here, from the on-off buttons to timed shows like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. There's multiple effects for the horse racing effects, left to right, inside out. I'm gonna go over all those features a little bit later on in this video. For now, let's just go ahead and get some sparks flowing. Now let's go over all the functions on the remote. So at the very top, we have a simple on, which is going to turn your spark machine on indefinitely, and you can use the off button to kill any of these effects at any given time. We have 3 different heights: high height, 15 feet, medium, and low. We have the clear function. Once again, I'm going to go over the importance of that a little bit later on in this video. Then we have 5 second and 10 seconds. Those are timed bursts. So if you hit the 5 second, it's gonna burst for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Now below that, we have 6 effect patterns, effects 1 through 6, along with the speed at which that effect happens. Now those are referred to as the horse racing effects, and those are used when you have multiple units linked together. On the side of the remote, we have a simple on-off switch. And at the top of the remote is the antenna. We recommend extending it when using the unit. So now let's go over these horse racing effects and how you get those working when you have multiple units set up. We now have 3 Dazzlers set up. I have them daisy chained into each other via DMX, as you can see here, and I'm gonna show you how to get them configured to run horse races. All right, so on our first unit here, I'm gonna press enter. You can see settings is now selected. I'm gonna press enter again, press enter one more time to enter the menu, and I'm gonna scroll down, and what I'm looking for is ID code and POMA number. So that bottom one is telling us how many units are in this horse race. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that to 3. And the ID code is what number within the horse race is this unit. This is gonna be unit number 1. So let's move to the next unit and get it configured. All right, so here we are. We're gonna set this to 3 because there's once again 3 units in our horse race, and this is gonna be unit number 2. All right, and once again on the last one, we're gonna set this to 3 because there's 3 units, and ID of 3, that's 4, ID of 3, because this is the 3rd unit in our sequence. All right, now that all 3 units are ready, let's use the remote and run some horse races. So here's effect 1. A nice little chase. Effect 2. Back and forth chase. Effect 3. A nice little inside-outside action. Effect 4. A nice little gradual chase from left to right. Effect 5. Left to right, all of them turning on, and 6. That easy to go ahead and trigger your sparks with the included remote. Now let's look at how to do that with DMX. Let's go over how to control your Dazzler effects using a DMX controller. For this example, I'm using a fader style DMX controller, but the principles that I'm going to cover can be applied to any DMX controller out there. Now the Dazzler FX is a 3-channel DMX fixture. Channel 1 is going to control your spark show. Channel 2 is going to cover that clear function, which is very important for properly maintaining and storing your unit. I'm going to cover all that in lots of detail at the end of this video in the maintenance section, so make sure you check it out. And channel 3 is going to turn your heating element on and off. Now let's go ahead and address the fixture. So to adjust the fixture, we're going to press enter. It selects set. Press enter again, and we'll see that the DMX address is already at 001, so we're good to go. Back out to menu, I'm gonna take my DMX cable here and go ahead and plug it in. So just starting with channel 1. Just like that. Channel 2, that's gonna run the clear function, kind of looks the same, but it's not. Check out the maintenance section for exactly what that is and why it's so important. And channel 3, you're not gonna see much, but I just turned off the heating element in the Dazzler. Now, why is that important? Well, maybe you're setting your Dazzlers up for a wedding, you set them up, you test them around your dance floor, they all work great, but now you're not gonna run them again for 2, 3, 4 more hours until that grand entrance or that first dance happens. They don't necessarily need to sit there at a high operating temperature during those multiple hour periods, so you can just go ahead and turn off the heating element, save yourself some power, and it puts the unit under less strenuous conditions. Well, that's DMX control for the Dazzler FX, really easy. Let's move on. Now let's talk about proper maintenance and storage of your Dazzler FX so it lasts you a long time. And we're gonna start with that oh so important clear function. It's present on the remote. You can trigger it via DMX, and you can even access it via the onboard menu. Check out the manual for specifically how to do that. Now, why is that clear function so important? So the clear function is going to remove all spark powder present in the inner chamber. So let's go ahead and do that and remove all spark powder from the inner chamber. Now you may need to run it a few times to make sure that all that powder is properly cleared. Once you see the sparks start to slow down, you know you're good to go. Let's do it. There's one clear function. Let's run it one more time. I'm seeing very few sparks come out of the unit, so I'm pretty sure that inner chamber is cleaned and ready to go. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is empty any residual powder that's still in that hopper. Now remember, there's probably still powder in there because while the clear function's running, the hopper isn't feeding the inner chamber. So what we're gonna do now is we'll power off our unit. We'll unplug it, we'll remove that top. Now, you can take a look inside to see how much powder is still in there. I got quite a bit left, and I don't necessarily just wanna throw it away. However, if there's only a little bit left, feel free to just take the unit, tip it upside down over a trash can, and empty that powder out. But you can absolutely save that powder that's still in the hopper. To do that, I like to just take a piece of paper. I'm then gonna turn the unit upside down and give it a good shake. A little side to side action, forward, backward. That's probably good enough. Look at all that powder we can save to use next time. Now we'll just take the powder and put it back inside of our bag, push out any extra air, and seal it up. Ready to use for next time. Let's talk about some best practices for the Dazzler FX. Now this one is gonna be about the heating element during prolonged events. Now if you're gonna have your Dazzler perhaps at a wedding or a corporate event, but you're not necessarily gonna be using it the whole time, I highly recommend turning it off in between uses. Now, obviously, if it's 10, 15, 30 minutes apart, you don't need to turn it off then. I'm talking about when you go to set up for a wedding, you put them around your dance floor, you test them, but then the grand entrance or that first dance isn't gonna be for 2, 3, maybe even 4 more hours. There's no need for the unit to constantly be sitting there at a very high temperature. So you can either just turn it off here, or if you're running DMX, to turn off the heating element. Then when you're 15, 20 minutes out from the big show, turn it back on so it's heated up and ready to rock. Talking about extended use here. Now, if you're burning through a whole bag of powder in your Dazzler FX, we highly recommend that you let the unit cool off for 20 minutes afterwards before resuming operation. So either flip that switch off, let it cool down, or using a DMX controller, you can tell the heating element to turn off. You know, just like a car driving uphill in the desert, the internal components can get very hot. So for the longevity of the unit, it's important to give it that relaxation every once in a while, let it cool back down, and it's gonna last you a long time if you do. Now, this tip is a little bit more of a troubleshooting tip, and that's if you're running your unit, you can hear that blower fan motor going, but sparks just aren't coming out. Stop the unit, turn it on its side, and you're gonna notice this access cap. Upon removing the access cap, you're gonna see a flathead screw. Now what that does is it turns the screw that's in the inner chamber. So maybe there's a little clog in there or something, so just take a flathead screwdriver, stick it in there. It should spin freely, give it a couple good turns. Go ahead and replace that cap, and then try to operate the Dazzler again. Now, if that didn't fix the issue, make sure that you don't try to repair or open up the unit yourself. Just reach out to ColorKey support and we'll get you taken care of. The next tip is gonna be on troubleshooting the remote. Maybe you got the remote, you're hitting buttons, but nothing's happening. Why could that be? Well, let's first start by checking to make sure you put a battery inside of it. I got a battery, so I'm good there. Next, I will check the on switch. It's in the off position, so let's turn that on. But still nothing. Oh, my antenna's in. Let's extend that. We're still not working. Here I can see that the remote is sending a signal, so what could be wrong? Well, there is one more thing to check. If we go in here, we're gonna press enter to select set, enter again, and right there, wireless switch is set to off. So we'll press enter to go into the menu, we'll go down, we'll turn the wireless switch to on, and now when I use my remote, we're good. The next tip that I want to give is regarding that fault LED. Now the unit is constantly monitoring its internal processors, heating chambers, everything. And so if it throws a permanent fault and your Dazzler isn't working, please contact ColorKey customer service. We'll get you taken care of. However, there is a way that you can accidentally trigger that fault LED, and I'll show you right now. The Dazzler FX should only ever be operated in a vertical position. And it's smart enough to know if you try to do something a little different. There you go. That fault LED is going off. Put it back in the vertical position, you're good to go. And the last pro tip that I have for everybody out there is that yes, you could put a whole bag of spark powder in there and run it for 15 minutes straight. However, we highly recommend only using the units in short bursts of 10 to 30 seconds. Keeping the internals a little bit more cooler and under less strenuous conditions will help prolong the life of your Dazzler greatly. That is all the tips and tricks I have for operating and maintaining your Dazzler FX. Now, please, please, please do go read through the manual. There is a wealth of information in there. Now, if you want to learn more about the Dazzler FX, you can check it out at colorkeyled.com or ask about it at your favorite lighting retailer. Have fun out there. Until next time.